And welcome to another episode of Modern Therapy, where we explore the practical tools and profound insights that drive healing outside of the session room. Today, we're honored to host a true veteran of the mental health field, a clinician whose wisdom is grounded in over 30 years of experience helping individuals, couples, and families heal from the inside out. Our guest is Dr. Gloria Vanderhorst, a licensed psychologist in Maryland and Washington, D.C., and a deeply skilled practitioner of one of the most effective trauma and relational modalities, internal family systems and emotional focused therapy. Dr. Vanderhorst is driven by a mission to empower people to understand their internal world. She believes healing starts with recognizing that we are all made of parts and that connection, both internal and external, is the antidote to pain.
Mm.
Beyond her thriving telehealth practice, she is also an accomplished author. She is here to discuss her award winning book, Read, Reflect, and Respond: The Three R's of Growth and Change, which serves as a powerful guide for personal transformation. Please join me in welcoming the compassionate, insightful, and deeply experienced Dr. Gloria K. Vanderhorst. Dr. Gloria, thank you for being on More Than Therapy.
Christopher, thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to interacting with your audience.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you. Well, likely to be no interaction today as it's early. They'll interact with,
Well, maybe long term, all right? They'll go to the website, they'll send me some
yeah,
emails, they'll
yeah,
ask some
yeah,
questions, that
yeah.
kind of interaction.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Of course. With over 30 years of practice, you've seen the field evolve. I mean, it's really
Absolutely.
evolved. You've seen what the DSM-3, the DSM-4, the DSM-5, and DSM-TR. You've seen people criminalize or make it a psychotic disorder to have a different sexuality to now being readily accepted in the DSM-5 and 5-TR, right? You've
Right,
seen
right.
great transitions from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. With over 30 years of practice, you've seen it evolve. And what does the concept of therapy mean to you personally? And what do you believe is the single most important action people can take for their mental health outside of weekly therapy sessions?
Well, you've mentioned this evolution. And the truth of the matter is that internal family systems, which you referenced in the introduction, will take the perspective that there is no disorder. Everything is real, everything is human, and everything is capable of change. So if we dive into the brain, and really appreciate that the brain holds on to everything from in utero, right? In the last trimester, you have memories that you're building, and your brain holds on to those. So think of what could happen if we could access all the pieces of your history. I know directly from my work that you can definitely access the early parts of infancy, the afterbirth experiences. At this point, I'm not sure about the access before birth. I know it exists, but I don't know that we've been able to go that deep into your brain's record. But I definitely know that we can go into your brain's record from birth forward. And that is fascinating.
It, it is. It is. I tell people all the time, it's the first 5 to 6, 7 years that can really impact you going forward.
Right.
And people think that, oh, that means that you're defined and you're broken. No, that just means
No,
that
no,
from there you can grow again, or you can,
right.
you know, use that as a catalyst for change. And that's the work you do. Your work heavily involves trauma healing.
Absolutely.
Can you
I've
explain?
been working with trauma experiences from preschool children
Yes.
forward. And it's fascinating that even a preschool child can have insight into their own history and can describe for you some of their early injuries. If I could just take a second and tell you about a preschool boy that I worked with, 4 years old.
Yes, please.
And he comes into my office because his parents are distressed that they're divorced. He moves back and forth, and he is dysregulated in each household. And so we're playing and interacting and chatting. And I ask him about, his parents say he never cries. So I'm curious, what happens to your tears? This boy gave me a brilliant description. He said, they don't come out my eyes. All right. They go into my mouth and down into my tummy, and they turn into rocks. And
Mm,
then they come back out of my mouth, and I throw them all around the room. Now, if that isn't the world's best description of suppressing anger,
hmm.
right? And then visiting it on everyone in your immediate vicinity,
Right.
it's an ideal description of what we do with our hurt feelings and how they can turn into hostility towards others.
Mm. He painted that picture so lovely, his experience, and for
Yeah.
him to understand that and feel it and to be able to articulate that. I mean, we always think that, oh, we work with children, they're only going to give us, they're poor historians, they're not going to give us what we need. But
Right.
you, based on your long history, know the work and
Mm.
know what it takes to get to the person. You understand their language and you work to understand their language, as everyone's language may be different as it pertains to their pain, their trauma, and what they're experiencing.
But they're brilliant. Children are really brilliant if we just give the opportunity to be interested in their
That's right.
brilliance. I think a lot of times we're not interested in their
Interested in being able to be trusted, because a lot of
brilliance.
times their lack of trust is why they don't divulge or don't truly express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You explained the difference between a big T and a small T as it pertains to trauma.
Yes. All
Why is
right.
it crucial for people to recognize that everyone carries emotional injuries, even seemingly minor ones that may impact them in their wellness?
Right. All right. So we all experience trauma. And we can experience trauma in utero. We can experience trauma at birth. We all experience trauma. So the small t, right, may be the way in which our family relates to us. All right. It is never intense, it's just repetitive. Right. Maybe you're the silly one in the family, maybe you're the dumb one in the family. All right. But we have a way within this family system of just kind of reminding you and repeating periodically that you fit into this category. All right. Those are small t's. They're
Hmm.
painful. They repeat. They're really consistent across time, and they wear at you. All right. They wear you down. It's like
Hmm.
sandpaper. All right. You keep the same piece of sandpaper going time after time after time, and
Right.
it creates harm. It mars the surface. So that's the small t. Right? The big T is a clear single event where perhaps your body is invaded, right? And you're raped or molested, or you're in a serious physical accident, right? You fall off the jungle gym and
Hmm.
crack your head
Right.
open. It can be any single traumatic event. That's a big T, right? It's going to stay in your memory bank. It's going to stand out. It's going to be triggered by particular associations to that event.
Mm-hmm.
If it happened in a car, you may have difficulty riding in a car for a considerable period of time. If it happened in a particular place, you
Mm-hmm.
may avoid that particular place. And definitely, if it happened with a particular person,
Mm-hmm.
like the sexual abuse within an extended family, you're going to avoid that person and your awareness is going to be heightened. So it has that heightened power, whereas the little t just has this continuous thread, and you're not quite sure, right, that you want to give credit to the little t, you'll definitely give credit to the big T. It stands out. But both of them have long term impact on the way that you experience yourself and the way that you interact with other people
Mm-hmm.
around you. And we all have trauma, nobody escapes. We all have trauma. So it is important in the course of work that we appreciate that it's helpful to take a look at the trauma that we have experienced and learn that we can have a different emotional reaction to it. We can understand it in a different way once we have the courage to unpack it. It does not have to dominate us. We can relate to it in a completely different way, and it's very healing experience.
Indeed. You mentioned that research. Oh, you already said. Um, the DNA can carry information for at least 3 generations.
That's what we know so far.
Mm, 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 mm.
And
Yes.
maybe by now the research has gone deeper than that. But definitely we have DNA tags from the last 3 generations, and they can cause pieces of information to jump into the present. I have an excellent example, right, of a girl who was 7 or 8 years old, and she periodically would have a repeat nightmare in which she was in a place that she knows she'd never experienced before, definitely terrified and running from something that was powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And she would have this nightmare, not with great frequency, but it was the same story every time it appeared. So maybe 3, 4, 5 months apart. And she wouldn't understand what particular experience in the course of that day would trigger this nightmare, but she had it enough that her grandparents finally disclosed that the story that she was telling was a true story from her history of her great grandmother, who had been attacked and chased. And the trauma of that was packed into this little girl's DNA. And it was incredibly helpful for her grandparents to finally disclose this was a real event, right? She wasn't crazy,
Mm-hmm.
right? She wasn't making up something to scare
Right.
herself, right? Just this piece of her brain every once in a while would play this recording, right? Play this movie that it had held on to. And once she understood the source of that, and they had conversation about that piece of history for her, the nightmares did not need to repeat. But for some reason, all right, that piece of the whole family's history needed attention, or at least that's the way I look at it. So it popped out in this girl's dreams.
Indeed, indeed. I've heard stories like that before too, and it's just so amazing. I remember back in the day, people would come to the realization that, oh, they're the reincarnation of, or something like that. But it's
Right.
just amazing that we now know that there's a genetic linkage. And it's also kind of sad that if somebody 2 generations back, let's say just even in the African American community, the impact the Jim Crow era had on
Oh,
certain people,
absolutely.
or
Yeah.
the segregation or the civil
Right.
rights acts, those things that happened in the 50s, 60s, or even what happened to my dad in Vietnam, and the children he had after Vietnam, the
Oh,
things
right.
he experienced as a
Very traumatic.
so
Right.
yes, definitely.
We all have trauma histories, all right? There's no way to avoid it. And appreciating that a trauma experience can be passed from generation to generation is really important. But also recognizing, all right, if you're like your father in Vietnam, that was an incredibly traumatic era. And being able to appreciate the limits of the personality change that took place in all the people that served. It is like the Jim Crow era as well. All right, that if we are being oppressed, rejected as an individual or as a group, that has a lasting impact on us. Our brain stores that detail. And you better believe that it's going to pop out when you least expect it. So, the value of appreciating the power of history is to take yourself more seriously and be willing to take a deeper dive into that history, be curious about what your brain is holding on to, and engage yourself either in therapy or in kind of your own interpersonal journey. I mean, that's why I wrote this Read, Reflect, Respond book, because it's to encourage you to take your own interpersonal journey into significant pieces of your history. And we can all do that, and we can heal, and we can benefit from those histories. It can make a huge change in how we interact with our families in the present.
Indeed. Regarding your book, Read, Reflect, Respond, how does this structured process force the reader to engage with their history and emotions differently than just simply journaling or reading a traditional self help book?
Well, most self help books, most journals are organized so that you read something, and then the opportunity to respond to it is a series of lines. All right. The expectation is that you will respond in language. You will respond by writing your responses. Well, guess what? All right. Your brain has memories long before you were capable of writing. And that rich history needs to be tapped into. And the way to tap into it is to look at the other ways that we represent information in our brains. We represent in terms of pictures, actions, and words. All right. So pictures, actions, words. Notice words is number three. All right. The first two ways that we represent the world around us is in terms of images and in terms of actions. So with read, reflect, respond, the facing page is blank. Yes, it has a couple of stimulating questions, maybe to get you reflecting and thinking more in relationship to the essay piece that you've just read, but you can draw on that page, you can scribble on that page, you could tear that page to shreds if you wanted to. Now, you will miss the essay on the other side unless you tape it all back together. But our brains need us to tap into those earlier ways of representing the world. There's a whole rich history there before you could read or write. There is a deep history that right now is jumping into the present and shaping how you respond or react to others around you. The other good thing about this book is that it has 52 essays, but you don't have to go through them in any order or any direction. You can jump around. You can read the titles one day and see which one pops out for you, which means you're following the guidance of your brain. Your brain knows what you need to dig into. And if you give it permission, it will be very helpful to you. Your brain wants you to be the best version of yourself and to be as capable as it is possible for you to be. So, healing is possible, and you don't have to sit with a therapist in order to start that process or go deeper into that process. You can do it through using this journal book.
Indeed. You use analogies in your essays like comparing emotional issues to a mental storage locker, a
Mm-hmm.
physical clutter.
Mm-hmm.
I can so relate to that. I need to clean my house out. Woo. What's
Yes,
the
we always have. We all have that.
what's the power of using simple, relatable stories to help people uncover deep, complex psychological concepts?
It's so important that we appreciate that our brain stores everything. And think of it, there's a reason for that, right? So it's not like you're a hoarder exactly, but it is that you have the capability of tapping into very early traumas. Early traumas really shape how you interact with someone else. All right. So let's say that you are an unwanted baby and you are rejected at birth. You record that, you feel that. All right. The strength of an infant is that they read the world around them. They are brilliant emotionally. They are accurate emotionally. You cannot fool a baby. I tell people if you want to develop a partnership with two, three, four people, find a
Mhm.
baby, pass that baby around the room in the arms of the person who is trustworthy and safe. The baby will relax and coo and make good eye contact. In the arms of the person that is kind of risky, not exactly trustworthy all the time, the baby's going to be fidgety and a little. In the arms of the person that is not trustworthy, that baby will cry. All right. Nothing is wrong with the baby. The baby does not need a diaper change. The baby does not need a nap. The baby has just read the room for you perfectly because babies are emotionally brilliant. It's their only survival mechanism. They have to read the room, they have to know who is trustworthy. All right. Who is going to be able to take care of me, feed me, keep me warm, comfort me. So when the baby cries in the arms of that third person, the baby is announcing this person is not safe. Don't trust them. Don't go into business with them. Don't lean into them. They are just not trustworthy. So if you think about that early brilliance, it has an impact on how the baby, how you shape your experience and your interaction with other people. So if you've been rejected as an infant, you will be uncomfortable with starting new relationships because your history is new relationships are dangerous. I get rejected. All right. I don't get taken care of. There's not safety in developing a new relationship. But if you can dive into that history and really uncover what is the story that led me to this sense of being a little shy or awkward and holding back in social situations, you can give yourself a choice, right? Until you dive into that, you have no choice. But once you appreciate, all right, this is a real piece of history. And if you're rejected as an infant and develop this sense of all people are dangerous, I just have to be cautious with everybody, you can look around at your history. Let's make you 30 years old. Well, not all people are dangerous, right? You've had relationship with people that are very loving and very accepting. Not all people are dangerous. You can change that philosophy. You can change that belief, and that gives you emotional relief, and it opens up your capability to initiate relationships with others that before that insight, you never would have taken the risk. So it's powerful to dig into your history and to understand the impact of early experiences.
Indeed, indeed. For those unfamiliar with internal family systems, I recently did a training there at UNC.
Mhm.
It introduced the concept of parts like managers, exiles, and firefighters, and explained how this model helps clients move away from self criticism and towards self leadership.
It's a marvelous model. All right. We probably don't have time to go into all of the detail of it, but here's the theory that is critical. It is that in our interactions with ourselves and everyone else, right, we develop processes, we develop ways of thinking and feeling. And it's possible for us to tap into those ways that we have developed and understand how are they functioning for us now. So the example of the baby who ends up being shy and reticent, right, is that's a piece of that person that developed in early infancy, but it's not necessarily a piece that I want to keep nurturing. All right. I would like to have a stronger sense of comfort when I introduce myself to someone new, or when I want to go build a relationship with someone, or when I want to confront someone. I
Mhm.
want to have a sense that I am competent and capable, not that I will automatically be rejected or be in trouble in some way. So, internal family systems really says to you, you have all of these different parts of you, all of these different ways of functioning, and we can take a look at how they play out in your life. And once you understand how they play out, how they jump into the present and change the way that you interact with the people around you, you now have choice. Before that understanding, you have no choice. But once you understand where this part comes from, how it functions, when it functions, what triggers it, you now have agency. You have the ability to choose, do I want to keep using that piece of me, or do I want to modify it in some way? And it's also true that we end up adopting ways of thinking and being from our family of origin. And so I also get to choose about whether this way of functioning is actually something that I want to do, Or have I adopted it from maybe a brother, a mother, a father? And if I've adopted it, I don't need to keep it. I
Hmm.
don't have to keep functioning that way or behaving that way. I can choose to say, okay, I copied that from grandfather, but you know what? I don't need to keep behaving in that way. So I can just tell that part of me to bug off, leave me alone. I don't need to use you. So it's a system that is actually it's marvelous, right? Because it allows each individual to access all of the pieces that have influenced them over time and to examine them and relate to them and then make choices. Do I keep this? Do I modify it in some way? Or do I say, bye, don't need you anymore?
Indeed, indeed. You work with high performers, including athletes, managing performance anxiety and burnout. We have a lot of teams here. We have a lot of schools here that's focused on athletics. We have the Charlotte Hornets.
Hmm.
We have the hockey team, the basketball
Right,
team, the
right.
football team. We have Duke and UNC and Wake Forest and
Yeah.
Central, and we have all the schools and A&T and so many athletes, so many athletes. What is the most common unseen emotional pattern you observe in highly driven individuals? And what EFT and IFS principle do you use to help them get over themselves?
Well, so it's true in every community, right? Sports are a way of life for us. In my own neighborhood, right? I can just take a walk around the corner and go to the little park where all the toddlers and preschoolers hang out. But there's also a big field there, and every Saturday morning, that field is filled with preschoolers learning to play soccer. So we start this attachment to sports at a very, very young age, right? Which means we train children from 3, really, that performance in a group situation is critical. It's powerful. It's very important that you learn to be competitive and that you strive to be better than the 3-year-old next to you. So we are pickled in a culture that values competition. So not just in sports, business, even we just went through Halloween, right? Neighborhood decorations. Just drive through any neighborhood and you'll see the competitive nature of human beings to see who can, make the most ridiculous presentation
Hmm.
for Halloween. So competition is just pickled in us, right? It's in our DNA to be able to compete with each other. The downside of that is that there's not a place at the top for everyone,
Yeah.
right? So I have to learn about my capabilities. The other key is that in the majority of sports, I also have to cooperate with someone else. There are very few individual sports. So most of the time, I have to not only challenge myself to excel and reach at the very pinnacle of what's possible for someone in this sport, but at the same time, right, where I'm climbing past everyone to be better than everyone, I also have to figure out how do I stay connected And how do I help all of those other people on the team to do the very best job that they can do? Now, that dichotomy is a mind blower, right? It is very difficult to develop a sense of self that lets you hang on to that dichotomy and not only respect yourself, but respect the contributions and the function of the other people on the team. So, engaging in self understanding, putting yourself into a therapeutic situation where you're really challenging yourself emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally, can actually increase your productivity. It's kind of a paradox. You would think, gosh, if I just focus on myself, I'm going to be able to be the very best participant that I can be. That's not true. I have to be able to balance the focus on myself with the focus on the group, and then I can be the very best athlete that I can possibly be.
Mm. I wish I'm gonna have to figure out a way to share this with all the schools. That's deep right there.
Mhm.
All right, all right. So tell people about your latest book and how they can go about acquiring it, because it seems like it could be very beneficial to their wellness and their recovery.
Absolutely. You could find this book by walking into your favorite private bookstore, any bookstore in the world you can walk into. You can give them the title, Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of growth and change, and they will be able to order it from the publisher and get it to you. Or any place in the world, you can open your computer, you can go on Amazon, and you can order it from Amazon, and they will deliver it to you any place in the world. So it is accessible to everyone. It is incredibly beneficial. I've gotten tremendous positive feedback from people who would not take themselves into therapy, but have found a therapeutic path for themselves that may eventually lead to doing some beginning individual work. But it is a gold mine of growth for anyone who takes the risk of opening it. So I'll show you the cover.
Mm.
It's a beautiful cover.
It is. It is. I like it. It makes me want to buy it.
Yeah, and then here's the inside.
Hmm.
Essay blank.
And I like that it's a big font because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
Right. Very important.
Indeed. All right. As we close out, if you could give the More Than Therapy listener or watcher one powerful action truth to take with them today, something they can respond to in their own lives immediately, what would that be?
Take yourself seriously, really. Dive into your own history because your history is jumping into the present, whether you recognize it or not. And when it jumps into the present, it's hurting you and it's hurting people around you. So take yourself seriously and dive into that history so that you can have a choice. That history jumps into the present because you don't have a choice about whether it moves or doesn't move.
Indeed, indeed. And that concludes another episode of the Modern Therapy Podcast. Thank you, Dr. Vanderhorst, regarding your appearance on this show, teaching us and educating us regarding all the things. And I look forward to acquiring your book and learning more about myself as I do the inner work to heal my inner trauma. Because, like you said before, everybody has some level of trauma, whether they recognize it or not.
They do.
Of that is that they may carry it from 3 generations or more back, right?
Right. That's absolutely true.
Indeed. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Modern Therapy Podcast wherever you listen or watch. to your favorite podcast. Until then, be well and continue to be great.
Thank you.